G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra is an 80s inspired beat 'em up. The game will support 4 players in local co-op and has a roster of your favorite G.I. Joe characters to play as, each of course with their own unique movesets. Your goal is to bring down Cobra with a blend of couch co-op and button mashing, or skilled combo executions if that's your thing. This is sure to be a great one for fans of beat 'em ups, G.I. Joe, or both. While I don't have a release date right now, I know that they're going to be announcing it soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. At PAX West, I had the opportunity to play a ton of upcoming multiplayer games, and I gotta tell you, I'm really excited. And just to string you along till the end, I'm saving some of the best for last. Let's talk about Coriden. This is an action RPG where you have the ability to shapeshift into the forms of various different beasts that you encounter on your journey. The shapeshifting was impressively seamless. Your characters did not stop whatever they were doing. They just transitioned from man to creature and creature to man and continued to move, with maybe a slight slowdown. While one of you is in the beast form and the other is human, the human can actually ride on the other player's back to move more quickly. As you level up, there are attribute points and skills to increase, as well as 4 different classes to choose from. While the game does not allow for any sort of split screen, there is an instant teleport feature if someone gets left behind. Another feature that I really enjoyed was that each player gets their own menu. It only takes up a quarter of the screen, which means that each player can handle their own skills and attributes at the same time, and if one player pauses to change something, the others can just keep playing, albeit with about a quarter of the screen being taken up. The game supports up to 4 players and is currently planned to release on Steam later this year. Bite Bond is an interesting cooperative puzzle game, where you use 2 robots' unique abilities to solve electrifying puzzles. While you can both pass power between each other, only one of you has the ability to take power from energy sources, while the other can place that power into electrical components. And you can each only hold a certain amount of electricity at once. When not holding electricity, your bot is small and resembles BB-8 from Star Wars. However, when juiced up on electricity, your bot resembles Big Weld from the Robots movie. At this point, you'll be too big to fit through many of the small doorways found in the levels. The puzzles consist of navigating the area to find what things need power, and then figuring out exactly how you can use your abilities and the environment around you to get power there. It has a really cute art style and intriguing puzzles. In the demo that I played, there were a few enemies to fight. We actually needed to work together to take them out, which was really cool. But another interesting feature that I really enjoyed is that your bot will actually bounce off things that you run into, especially one another, and it gets a little harder to control the bigger that you are. There is a way to play solo, but it's really meant as a cooperative journey, so you can play online or locally. Right now, it supports 2 players and is set to release on Steam in Q1 of 2025. Now would be a good time to mention that if you're interested in any of these games, you should definitely go wishlist them on Steam so that they can actually come to fruition. Dipping our toes back into the retro beat-em-ups pool, we have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. That is a mouthful, but it's a fantastic looking game. This is another example of a retro style beat 'em up in the modern age. It comes with a clean retro pixel art look or a CRT filter that lets it look real retro. The game has you playing as 5 Power Rangers with up to 5 players locally or online. There are fan favorite enemies from the TV show scattered through the levels, as well as some events that fans of the show may recognize, though there may be a little bit of a twist. This felt like a classic 2D brawler and will include some unique levels with roller coasters, arcade-style shooting and driving sequences, and you even get to pilot the original Dinozords and use the Megazord to fight gigantic bosses. It is currently planned to release everywhere sometime in 2024. If you grew up with Tony Hawk Pro Skater, then Olly Frog Toad Skater might appeal to you. This is a skating game that was described to me as Tony Hawk Pro Skater with a cute little frog. You get to ride around various environments and do all sorts of tricks on your skateboard to rack up points. I was pretty bad at this one, but at the same time, it seemed like a pretty fun game. It has split screen for at least 2 players. I'm not exactly sure if that's the max right now. You can also totally customize your Toad, which I think is an important piece of a game like this. It has a demo available on Steam right now and is planned to release sometime this year. Moving to something a little darker, we have Demon Spore. This is an interesting little roguelike with twin-stick shooter gameplay. You play as scientists trying to escape a laboratory where things have gone incredibly wrong. As you are in a lab, the weapons kind of reflect that. From using fire extinguishers to freeze the enemies, throwable jars of acid to poison them, or big old flamethrowers to melt their faces off. The game features an interesting map layout to help you choose what door you should go through next. Your goal is always to make it to the elevator to continue making it through the building, but you may want to take a detour to grab a better weapon or heal. But you also must be aware that the demon spore is constantly spreading, and the longer you take to make it to the elevator, the more it will spread, possibly blocking your path with a deadly foe to fight. The game is still in development and may end up with some big changes in the future, but as it is, I had a lot of fun with it. I would love to see a little more variety added to the game, but right now it is planned to release sometime this year. I have to tell you, I've never been a fan of fighting games or even watching boxing, but just playing Undisputed, I could tell that there's something special about this game. The fighting is very in-depth. I especially enjoyed the somewhat 3D aspect of it, where I had to be mindful of whether I was punching with my left arm or my right. The game is also very realistic, and talking with the developer, I could tell the care and the passion that was put into making this. Injuries will carry from one round to the next. The health system is very intriguing, and the whole game is entirely licensed, which in and of itself is a pretty difficult feat. If you're a fan of fighting games or boxing, then I would recommend checking this one out. It supports 2 players locally and has a career mode you can grind through solo. The game is currently in early access on Steam and is planned for a full release to PlayStation, Xbox X and S, and PC October 11th. If you want to continue seeing videos like this on the channel, I'd love it if you considered supporting us by joining our membership at thecoopstop.com/support. It really means the world to us when you guys help support us. This channel wouldn't be possible without supporters like you, so thank you very much. One of, if not my favorite game, was Popcom. This is an interesting mesh of a Splatoon-style third-person shooter, a 3D puzzle platformer, and a match 3 game? The whole game is entirely color-based. Each character has 2 colors that they can swap between to help solve puzzles. You each have a paint shooter and a holographic shield that matches your current color. With these tools in hand, you'll have to make it through different puzzles and defeat your enemies. There were plenty of moving platforms with lasers of different colors that we would have to block with our shields. Sometimes we'd have to make platforms for our co-op companion to jump on. There are also plenty of enemies to fight. When you shoot them, you actually generate a new enemy in the color of your character. So if you continually miss, you will just be making your enemy larger and larger. This game has a ton of potential and was an absolute blast. Right now it's planned to release on PlayStation and Steam. The PlayStation does claim that it supports up to 4 players. However, what we played at PAX West was definitely a 2-player game. Unfortunately, there is no release date as of now. One of the very few competitive rather than co-op multiplayer games I played at PAX West was Mario Party Jamboree. Nintendo provided me access to roughly an hour and a half of gameplay. This is your classic Mario Party, but bigger than ever. There are over 110 minigames, I think something like 7 boards, 20 playable characters. Carly loves Mario Party, it is one of her favorite games, and this one comes with a bunch of new game modes, though some of them are online only. The game will come with, I think, 3 months of online pass when you purchase it, so I'm excited to pick it up and play it with Carly come October 17th. Heroes of Mount Dragon is a beat-em-up, roguelite, arcade-esque game. You play as a variety of different heroes, each with the ability to transform into a dragon once the power bar has been filled. Each dragon will have its own attacks, and while you play cooperatively together to make your way through the game, there is also plenty of competitive options to keep things interesting. There are also a ton of different power-ups to give you an edge, or curses to put on your friends when playing competitively. The game is planned to release on PC in 2025. If you are seeking more of an action adventure, then may I turn your attention to Slime Heroes. As cute and charming as this little game may be, it is actually hiding quite the challenge. You see, this is a Souls-like game, which means it's a little more challenging than the games we generally talk about. However, just wandering through the world was not too difficult. It was fairly simple combat that most players can probably do easily. especially as playing in co-op means that you can revive your companions. However, it is the boss fights where things get a little trickier. To be fair, we were underleveled while trying to take on the first boss since the developer had just teleported us right to him, but we got absolutely destroyed. This is of course coming from somebody who rarely plays this genre of game. However, despite the difficulty, there are a ton of built-in accessibility features that will allow you to change the difficulty of the game to something closer to your wheelhouse. As you level up and work your way through the game, you will also increase in power and learn new skills to use in fight. The skills can be mixed and matched to create entirely different skills that do completely different things. It is very in-depth and supports up to 2 players, and I am definitely looking forward to diving deeper into Slime Heroes when it releases on PC and Xbox sometime in the future. Despite not growing up with Rugrats, I still really enjoyed the experience of playing the new Rugrats Adventures in Gameland. This is a pretty simple 2D platformer that was originally designed to work on NES hardware. The game has a toggle to allow you to switch between the real 8-bit gameplay and the nicer, for me, HD graphics. Honestly, I was pretty bad at this game, but it was fun nonetheless. There are 4 playable characters, Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil, and it supports up to 2 players at once. You can really tell when playing this that it is a love letter to the NES era of games and the 90s Rugrats show. There is something wonderful about Wild Woods. This is another roguelike adventure, but with a very interesting concept. It is kind of like a mashup between Ember Knight's Overcooked and a tower defense game. With up to 4 players, you will set out on a journey through the woods with your wagon. Along your way, you will need to gather resources. Wood to keep your fire going at night so you can actually see and not freeze to death, and a certain plant that will actually allow you and other players to heal. These resources are delivered to your wagon, but the wagon continues to move along the road while you gather the resources, so you'll need to be quick so that you don't leave anything behind. Now, here is where your tower defense comes in. Along your route, bandits will attack you and your wagon. If your wagon is destroyed, you'll not be able to heal or have a fire until it is repaired. The combat is fairly simple, but it definitely gets more complex as different enemies appear. And you may also be trying to gather more resources or keep the fire lit while you're being attacked. Eventually, you will reach a safe camp for the night where you will be able to use your gold and challenge tokens that you collected to purchase upgrades before continuing with your journey. The demo ended for us after we defeated our first boss. I was incredibly pleased with how this game played, and I cannot wait for its full release. Unfortunately, for now, it is only planned for Steam and has no release date. Get your creative juices ready because this next game needs them. I had a ton of fun with Super Dungeon Designer. This is a Zelda-esque dungeon maker where you design your own dungeons. You can also share them online and download dungeons made by other players to play yourself. While the dungeon building part of the game is solo only, the dungeons you create can support up to 4 players. There is quite a bit of customization in the designing process. You can have players start at different locations. You can choose whether they're going to have a shared inventory or a split inventory. You can also link different items together in what is basically an if-then statement. If this enemy is defeated, then open this door. The possibilities here are endless, whether you want to create a dungeon for your friends or all work together to come up with ideas to build a dungeon. This is going to be a ton of fun. I played a multiplayer dungeon they had available at PAX and really enjoyed the experience. I can only imagine all of the different creative things you can do with different co-op puzzles, or even some competitive dungeons to see who can make it to the end first. The game is in early access on Steam right now and is planned for a full release on Switch in the middle of next year. While a lot of these games have a little while before they actually come out, the Multiplayer Minute series right here gives you info about all of the games that are releasing very, very soon. I hope to see you guys over there to figure out all of the games you've been missing this year. I love ya. Y'all are awesome.